Welcome to Overcoming the Limits video and podcast series, where we interview extraordinary people and dig into their psychology, their motivation, and their journey. My name is Trevor.
And I'm Jake.
And today we have a special guest. Jake's brother Phil is here.
Hey, how is everyone?
And we are here to ignite inspiration in each and every one of you listening and watching today. Today we have a very cool guy. His name is Christel Aime.
Aime, that's right. Uh-huh.
Thanks for being here, Christel.
Thanks you for having me.
Awesome.
Yes. I didn't know I was extraordinary, but thank you. I love it.
Man, yeah, I mean, that's probably what makes you extraordinary, is the fact that you don't recognize that you are. Usually people like that, they're the really cool ones with the great wisdom and the experience. Yeah, you have done some impressive stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm sure you're talking about the incline, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure. Actually, I've had quite a few conversations with you, and you've done other outside of the incline. It's very impressive, and we'll get to that. But just to summarize, for people that don't know, we are talking to Christel, and he is a record holder. He is the third person to have done 1,000 inclines in a year, and the incline is in Manitou Springs, Colorado, and it is a staircase that goes up a mountain, 2,000 foot in elevation gain. It is 2,768 stairs, and so you did 1,000 laps in 1 year.
1,000 laps in 1 year. So I met, actually I've been coming to the incline for about 14, 15 years. Actually more than that, because my daughter is 14 this year. So I've been coming to the incline for about 17 years, I think. And over time, it had become my workout place. And so even if I go to the gym, I would always come here to the incline and do a hike. And sometimes I go beyond the incline, go to Pikes Peak. I do that trip maybe a couple of times a year. But incline is pretty much my workout and my spiritual place to be. And so over time, I also find out that it's not only a workout place, it's also a it rejuvenates in your mind and also go away, be alone type place for me also. So
isn't it great?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. I guess the first thing that I'm curious about is, do you remember the first time you did the incline and kind of the experience?
You know, the first time I think was I met my wife. I think, and she and her friends told me about, there is this thing called the incline here. And my wife is Polish, and she had a bunch of friends from Europe. They all, trying to explore the area. And so they told me, well, let's go to the incline. So we're just kind of friends at the time. And so we did the bar trail, and we cut through and got to the incline. Actually, everything was dirt during that time. I think it's about 17 years ago, maybe 16. And so when I discovered it, I thought, wow, what an interesting
So this is
place.
early 2000s. This is the first time you went on the incline?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, maybe 99, I would say, early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, And so I remember that because I know that my friend, we had German friends with us. We have another friend of us who was from France, and my wife, who they were all, foreigners trying to explore Colorado Springs, and me from Haiti. And so we went up there, and then so since I found that place, I remember we cut through the parking lot, who is now paved, but it was just dirt really at the time.
Yeah.
So we cut through the parking lot. So I never knew that the beginning of the incline was where it's at now. So I kept coming, but where I start was always from the parking lot, cut through, and there were some stairs there too, actually.
And that puts you at about stair 400.
400.
Yeah, right where the power lines are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so a while later, another friend of mine from Kenya, I saw him coming from down, and I said, "Where are you coming from?" He says, "Well, from the beginning of the incline." I said, "Well, I thought the incline started right here from the parking lot." He says,
"No, looked right," and you're like, "Oh, what's that way?"
So one day I decided, okay, I'm gonna so go back down and see where it starts, because the area was really a bunch of bushes.
Yeah,
there was nobody really doing it except for a few people who knew about it, and as I heard, maybe 2 or 3 years earlier, that's when they stopped. I think it was in the 90s. There was a
in the early 90s, it used to be a railway, and it would
Exactly.
go up to the top. It was a tourist attraction for many
Exactly,
years, and there was
exactly.
this landslide from a storm.
That's right.
And the dirt just wiped the infrastructure out, and I guess the owners were just like, "Oh well, this is too expensive to
Exactly.
fix, so let's just abandon it."
Exactly. So it was really early exploration time for the incline from everyone, and so
And it used to be pretty dangerous back then. There were
yeah,
pipes sticking up.
pipes sticking up,
Oh, it just
yeah,
wasn't-
nails.
Okay.
Yeah, rebars up, the
Rebars,
drainage,
that's right.
rusty, open, like edged. It was pretty rough, and the stairs
Yes.
were falling apart.
Oh gosh, it was
So there's
it
a
was
lot of
an
trip hazards
adventure.
and things.
Sometimes you have to get on your fours really to get from one place to the other.
Yeah.
And then so
And it was private property too
It
at that
was,
point.
exactly.
It wasn't technically legal to go on, but the landowner didn't really mind. So,
Exactly.
So people would go up it just for the reasons he's describing. And then it kind of picked up steam over the years, and now it's this major attraction in the city
Yep.
that literally thousands of people do
thousands
every
of
single
people
day.
do exactly during the summer. So that's how now I found the bottom of the incline. So I started going from the bottom of the incline, and it's unfortunate that now that it's hard to park. They monetized the whole parking area, but at that time it was easy. Just come and park in the dirt and
Yeah.
just go up there and then have some time.
So what led you from the first time that you experienced it and did it to coming back to it and doing it over 1,000 times?
Well, I've always
In a year.
been very. I've always run a lot and do a lot of exercises. So when I find something that is hard and difficult, actually, it's a challenge. I try to. I don't know why my body is always wanting to conquer it, and so do it and try. That's how I think my body works, and so even from Haiti, I remember I would walk for miles and come back home, and I was lucky, I think, being raised in Haiti, because I would work for hours in the gardens, and Haiti was not that, it was still poor, but I was raised mostly in the countryside, so therefore for me it was a dream, walking through the garden, picking up fruits and vegetables and crap and eat while you are hiking. And my
How long
cousins,
did you live in Haiti?
Oh, until I was 24, 25. So it was my whole adolescent life was there. Though now I've lived here longer than Haiti.
I wouldn't guess that you're older than 50.
I'm not 50 actually. Maybe I've not lived, but I feel like I've lived more here. No, I'm 48.
So that's pretty close to 50.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
You look good for your age. I wouldn't have guessed 48.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't have. It must be all this
most people
cardio.
think. Yeah, I live the whites now, so people can give me some respect, because people would come to my business and then they would look for the owner and they look for everybody else but me. I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? It's like I'm too young to be the owner.
So when you're growing up in Haiti, what kind of struggles existed that you feel really helped develop your personality?
That's a good question. And I feel like this is very important. And I'm scared for my kids really and talking about this, because adversity brings maturity, right? And I feel like, and you can see it, second generation immigrants, third generation, they never appreciate the condition in which they live, and they try to, and I'm very political, and then so people, not political to one side, political to in a way that I feel like people, anyway, I'm very political. So the question, I think you said, what led to that?
What kind of struggles?
Yes.
I think when we've spoken before, you told me you had to walk a certain distance just to get fresh water.
Exactly. So I was raised. It's a difficult thing to explain. I cannot claim to have been poor, but I cannot claim to have been well off. Therefore, we live in a middle class type family. In Haiti, middle class would be poor here, of course, but still my dad was a pastor. We were able to go to school, we have food every day. We have people in the house who helped us, but at the same time, we are at the mercy of the environment in which we live. That's why we say you can be poor, you can be a middle class in Haiti, but you're totally exposed to the environment, which is lack of water, lack of electricity, dirty environment, not sanitary environment. So therefore, when we don't have water, when the water company doesn't have water, we have to have people go and either fetch the water or we go get to the water. So we would go as a youngster after playing, every day after playing soccer, we would walk 5 miles.
5 miles?
Oh yeah, and
One
it would be fun. And now people would think like, oh, it's bad, but I remember it being fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Like after playing soccer, we walked like 4 or 5 miles if there is no water.
Are you saying 5 miles in one direction?
In one direction? Well, 5 mile one direction and then another.
So you're doing like a half marathon just to get water.
Yeah, you just go there and then there is a well. I remember it's a fall, there's a waterfall. So everybody goes there and get water, and so we bathe there, have fun there, and then walk back to the house.
Yeah.
Sometimes we take our bikes. Right. Sometimes we take our bikes and so it would be pretty much an adventure. So we would do it at least a couple of times a week to go take a shower and then come back. If there is no water, the provider doesn't provide water, and then so.
What was going through your mind during that time? Is it just, this is just life?
Yes, exactly. So that's what I say. I feel bad for my kids because, they get everything
They're so comfortable, right?
Comfortable, right?
Yeah,
and so,
here.
but I did not feel it as being a bad thing either, actually. I did not know that. First, you watch movies and you saw that, but at that time, I didn't think of it. I feel like it was natural. It was like what people do.
You were enjoying it.
Exactly. Like, example, when we have storms and now I watch the weatherman and they're saying we're going to have a bad storm coming from the Caribbean and all that. And so I remember myself, it was fun. We're looking for a storm to come so we can be running in the, storm around the neighborhood, sliding, like, snow, like people do sledding. We would be sliding. There was a house. I remember a friend of mine, he lives in a house where they have a long hallway where we would just slide like on a sled on our belly, on our back. The whole day long. That is funny. So my recollection of these are just fun recollection. Of course, now I'm sure people probably have lost homes or lost because in our house also we have tile, metal tile. So sometimes we'd have to put little buckets to collect water because there was some hole in the roof.
Yeah.
And then so people, the roof is leaking, and so we have to collect the water. But that is a bad experience. But overall, I feel like all these difficulties make me appreciate. Example, if I'm walking here and somebody's littering and throwing trash, right? I feel I'm very self-conscious. I don't like that because I know that I wasn't raised in a place where you can go in a park and then have a moment without trash, without litter, without loud music. Right? Loud music is good. Like, I like it as a person. For me, if I'm listening, party or in my car, but I don't like it when people are blasting music outside because in Haiti, it's pollution. It's polluted with loud music wherever you go. And you cannot find a place to be and think. You just like boom, 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 boom. And sometimes even till the night. And so people will hear noise. I call it noise pollution.
So that's probably a part of the draw to the incline to you, is it's just so peaceful and quiet.
It's very peaceful. Yeah, it's very peaceful, very quiet. Exactly. And then and then I get to appreciate also rules and regulations. Though being raised in a country where I was half my life was. When I was in Haiti, was under a dictatorship. And then so when I was a teenager, 16, I think, or maybe 15, I think the dictatorship got overturned and they started some type of elective democratic process. But I remember we have the Tonton Macoutes in Haiti, and so being part of a country where you have to watch what you say, you have to watch what you do, you have to watch your neighbor could come and say you said something that you did not say, and then the vigilante of the government can come and arrest you and your family. Get me to appreciate being in a country where I don't have to worry about this kind of things. And then so it was different. Now that when I came here, I realized, of course, it was hard. Another thing that was harder for me, I think, being raised in Haiti, is that my dad, my family, they, as a pastor, and he sacrificed. You have to work in Haiti, and as a pastor, you don't just be a pastor and just don't work. You work as my dad had buses, and he would drive the bus sometimes from one place to another, pick people up, and then that's how we make money. And so I would go with him and collect money when he's driving, and it would be the money collector for him, and then so having done that. Well, my dad, having made sacrifice, he had sent me literally to one of the best schools in Haiti, where there was only I remember it was a Jesuit all boys school, and I was there for most of my high school, middle school, and before, and so being educated in Haiti, and then finding out now when you're done with your education and you're trying to go to university, and you cannot go to certain universities because you're not connected. You're trying to go to school, right, to improve your life, and then you just like, you can't go because they're not selecting you, because whoever is close to the government, whoever is close to the dean, that's who they select. And then so that was the hardest thing for me.
That's pretty
when
unfair,
I finished
right?
high school.
You may have been more qualified.
Well, I hope I was.
You may have, but just because you didn't have the right friends.
You don't the right friends, you don't get in. And I remember crying over this. That's the first time I remember being heavily sad and feel stuck.
It's a big realization.
Yes, that I think, oh shoot, I'm gonna be stuck here.
And you saw all the sacrifice your dad did to help you on this education path.
Yes.
And he worked really hard to get you to where you were, and then you realized, wow, the system is kind of against you.
Yep. So that was the hardest for me.
Can we go back
actually.
for 1 second, just about a kind of a common theme through all this that you had mentioned. So adversity brings maturity, which is such an awesome mindset. And then there's an article that was written about you, and you're saying, in any kind of situation, I'm going to look for the harder path. And so I just wanted to see, what's your mindset about, like, how do you weigh the benefit that you're getting from taking the harder path? Like, how do you process the benefit of doing 1,000 inclines a year, these kind of harder things that you do?
Mm-hmm. No, though I say that, I think about it. It might not be the right thing to do, but that's how I think. So I feel like when you do something and you do it the right way, example, it's always going to be harder than to take a shortcut. And then if you are trying to understand something, and I've done that many times, there is no way to do it to just dive into it and to slowly understand what's happening so you can grow into it. And now once you dive into it, imagine you dive into something and you now see different doors now you can take as you understand the place in which you are, and doors that are possibly going to be that could be opportunities. So, but if you just decide, okay, I'm gonna take the shortest way or the quickest way to do something to accomplish it, I feel like your accomplishment, let's say somebody take it from you, I think it will be harder for you to do it again, because you have not you will have not known how you have gotten there.
Because you took the path of least
yes.
resistance.
So I'm always cautious. So when I came to the US, the same thing I did was I decided to go back and took all the high school classes that I've taken in Haiti because I wanted to understand English, understand it well, and then make sure that I dive into the culture, dive into the language. So now when I decide to go to medical school, that was my goal, that I am as comfortable as anybody else.
And how old were you when you came to the U.S.?
Probably 25.
25.
Yeah,
So you're
24,
studying high school content at 25 just so that you can ensure you have a solid foundation.
Exactly. So I took algebra again. I took calculus again. I took history again. I took literature again. And I did the test and I passed where I didn't have to take them. I took the test at Pikes Peak Community College. They told me I could pretty much start at certain levels, but I said, no, I think I need to take these other ones because I feel like I need to understand English well. I need to speak English better. And though I spoke English before I came here because I was an interpreter in my dad's church for missionaries, that's how I got to the U.S. But I just wanted to make sure that I am okay and that and nobody can say that I'm speaking broken English or I'm not worth what I'm just worried about this kind of stuff.
What was it like coming to the U.S. and having so much educational opportunities just readily available, where you were fighting to get the opportunity in Haiti? You come here and it's just like, yeah, you can just start. All you gotta do is just be here and you can learn.
Exactly. That was a breath of fresh air. When I first came, I came to Bible college. I dived into the Bible. I started rereading the Bible over and over again. So I read that was one of the requirements. I came to Colorado Bible College, and I came with the Springs Rescue Mission, the founder of the Springs Rescue Mission, who founded the Rescue Mission because he came to my dad's church and became he was helping us build a school that we had there, and then he decided, okay, I like this kind of work, so I'll go from Kansas to Colorado and then open a Bible college. Well, not open a Bible college, open a rescue mission, and that's how he sponsored me to come to the U.S. And then I went to Bible college with him. So I found out I was my grade in Haiti. Everything you learn is, again, maybe that's because I was born there. That's why I always look for the harder path. In Haiti, everything you do in school, you have to do it the hardest way too. Like you have to memorize the book, literally. And not even some of the books I memorized, I don't understand them. There was one book I learned. I memorized one day, a history book, and I went back to Haiti one day and I picked up the book and I read it. I started crying. That was a history of how Christopher Columbus came to Haiti, and the massacre of the natives. I literally cried on the airplane. But I know that book by heart, and I never understood the gravity or the what the book was trying to really tell us.
Yeah, there's a difference, right, between like the rote memorization of it and really understanding.
And so maybe that's how I got the route, because they force you to do things the hardest way, right? And learning, and then of course, being in a Catholic school, a priest, I had a bunch of priests as teachers. If you do something wrong, they had you start over and over again. If you were learning math, you had to literally understand and memorize the whole problem and not just, understand the problem. And so everything was based on hardship, actually. So therefore, maybe that's why.
That's why you like the challenges.
Now you taught me something.
Yeah. So we fast forward to now your adult life. I spoke to you recently. I don't know how many months ago it was. Maybe it was a year ago. Mm-hmm. And you inspired me immediately. You are a very inspirational guy, a true entrepreneur. You have an impressive amount of business success. Can we talk a little bit about what you do and what inspired you to become a business owner based off of where you were?
Well, as I told you, when I came here, I wanted to be I came to be a pastor. That's what my dad wanted me to do. But I realized after 2 years in the college that it wasn't for me. So I decided, okay, I'll go back to my original thought, which was go to medical school. And again, in Haiti, everybody wants to be a doctor because that's the prestigious thing to be. And then so I said,
like
okay.
a socio class perspective.
Exactly. But I also had interest in medicine because I remember when I was very young, I was playing with friends where we would take small animals and then people would think this is bad here in the U.S. dissect them.
We did that freshman year. You must have done that too.
Yeah, freshman biology.
Yeah, frog, little pig.
We would dissect little rats.
Rats, yeah.
And then we, kind of learn where the organs are, anatomy, and then sometimes actually. I literally would think, when somebody take a Tylenol, where does it go? How does that headache go away?
That's a good
right?
question, yeah.
And then so I'm thinking, well, maybe the Tylenol goes to the head. And so it was fascinating. I've always been fascinated with how things work. And then so maybe that's why I said, I'll go to medical school. But I wanted on engineering or medical school. That was really what I always wanted to do. And then so my goal to go to medical school was to become maybe work with the CDC. So I tried to understand diseases and work in labs, really. But after a while, I realized that, as an immigrant, I have to work and go to medical school. So I took a pre-med class and I became a nurse. So I can, they told me it would help me get to medical school. And being a nurse, after I graduated and I was really early studied to take the MCAT, which is the test to go to medical school, I opened a business, a home care business, because I lost a job that I thought, the way I lost that job was not fair. And I feel like this would happen again. And I decided I will just be my own boss and open a home care agency. And I started teaching medication classes. So I just opened medication, called the state, told them, how do I become a medication class instructor? They told me I became a contractor with the state teaching QMAP classes. And at the same time, I decided to call the state, say, how do I open a home care agency? Because I was a nurse. That was the only, the probable business for me to open. So I said, okay, they told me, okay, get the regulation for home care businesses and review the regulation. And then maybe you can develop your policies based on the regulations. Mm-hmm. So I literally did that. The state was friendly at the time because the surveyors who came literally helped me walk through it. Helped me say, you can do this policy here, or you need this policy there, or maybe you need to do this. So literally helped me develop the policies after my survey, and that's why I opened my first business.
Did you ever have thoughts of, I'm not sure if this business is going to be successful?
No, I never thought of that. Kind of funny you said that. I never thought of that.
There. That's
yes, I never thought, because I thought, okay, I'll just work, and then my wife and we just got married. So okay, my wife will help me and sometime, and then I will focus on working. So I did not quit my job, and then I started teaching also medication classes, and so medication techs are people who are working assisted living, and they need to pass medication, and so they look for instructors that are sort of contracted by the state, and then there should be a nurse or a pharmacist or a doctor, and so I became one of them, and I literally opened my basement. And so I started teaching on the basement, and then and I started teaching also I would travel and teach in those facilities. And for the home care, the way I got my first client was at the hospital, Penrose Hospital. I was working there, and one of the client literally told me, she just finished out of surgery. She said, I'm looking for a home care agency. I said, I just opened one. She says, well, but this is my number. Call me. I'm discharging tomorrow. She would need it for her husband who was at home. He had Alzheimer's, just got diagnosed with it, and needed a caregiver. So I literally called. I did not even have any caregiver to go take care of him yet. So
You had your first client.
That was my first client.
All
I know
right.
people always ask me when people say what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I said this is a stupid question. Of course, the chicken comes first, because that was my client. I found a client, and then now I'm gonna find
It's a forcing mechanism,
well, exactly.
right? Yeah.
Now I'm forced to find people to take care of them.
Pressure's on now.
Exactly. So I literally went home overnight, called 20 people, interviewed 2 or 3 caregivers. The fourth one I interviewed was, yes, of course, Christel, because they were the people I call were in my QMAP classes.
Oh, the classes you were teaching?
So they were kind of worked pretty well for me.
So you already had that relationship. And you
so
knew them.
yes, and then at that time, of course, people work. It's not like now people don't want to work, right? So
Yeah, there's a lot of freebies handed
I know.
out.
So I called 3 people, and at the third one said, "Of course." And I called a fourth one, and then so I had 3 staff overnight, and then went over there with them, interviewed the client, and then that was my first client. It was a 24-hour client, and it was a good client because a 24-hour client in a home care, literally, that's what most home care agencies are looking for.
So is that a person that needs 24 hours support?
24-hour care.
And they live in your facility?
I send my staff in their home.
Oh, okay.
That's a home care agency.
That's
At that time,
better.
I did not have any assisted living.
Better margins then, because now you don't have to pay for a building. Too.
Exactly. So that home care business, I still have it. It's, if you have good clients, you can make 20%. But now we have a lot of Medicaid clients, hard to find private pay clients. So I have about 100 clients that we take care of.
And this is one of how many businesses you have?
Well, I do have the home care agency, and then I have now I open assisted livings by teaching the medication classes. I got exposed to assisted livings, and so I bought one. Literally, the lady told me that God told her I would buy her assisted living, and she invited me to her home, and then got dinner, and then we pretty much facilitate me buying the assisted living for nothing, and then so I bought one, and then now I have about 13. And then of course, I opened a transportation company in the process. Because 3 years after opening the home care agency, there was no Medicaid transportation for some of my home care clients. And so I decided, okay, I will buy a car, and we would make sure we assure that our client get to places like doctor's offices to buy groceries and to rehab. And so I literally decided, okay, I'll find out how to get this done. Once I called the PUC, which is the Public Utilities Commission, they told me, oh, no, you have to have a taxi's license at the time. And so I ended up having a fight with the taxi company here in town, Yellow Cab. Went to court to see if we can get licensed so we can be a taxi company so we can serve our clients. So literally opened a lawsuit, and 2 years into it, the governor created a loophole that allowed Medicaid recipients now to receive taxi services outside the taxi common license that they have. And then so therefore now we have about 40 cars, give and takes, that we provide services for clients from Denver all the way down to Pueblo. And so we have coach transportation. That's what we do. And we open ambulance services because, being a home transportation company, you would sometimes need transfer for stretcher, and then stretcher in Colorado require EMTs that are trained to be in an ambulance. And then so I opened an ambulance company, though I closed it because after COVID we couldn't find anybody to work, so that ambulance company is now closed. And the transportation company actually is now, we will have it, we'll transfer it to another company that does nonprofit work, because it's a better public utility type business, really, because we don't make money with it. We always lose money every year.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered, it seems like we covered a lot of ground here. I'm curious about sort of your early influences, like your relationship with your family and your father and mom. How did this drive you to accomplish some of the things that you've accomplished now?
Yeah. Well, my dad was, is a pastor. He takes me everywhere. I go preach with him. I would be his reading. I read before he start preaching. Of course, I was forced to be the pastor, the youth leader in the church So I played instruments, piano or guitar.
Oh, that's
I had
great.
groups and all that. So I think, and then again, you are forced to do certain things. Like you don't have a choice; you just do it. Of course, I was not allowed to have B's, and if I have a bad grade, I would get a whipping, and whippings were a thing at a time, right? And I don't think they do that anymore. But yes, consequences would be you get punished. And my mom was the person that would be the calmer one. And of course, moms are always different. And then so, example, I never smoked, I never drank, I never done anything that is that they told me not to do, not because I was scared of my dad, kind of funny. It was because I didn't want to disappoint my mother. And then so somebody asked me, try this marijuana. I hate it. It was prohibited. So I always tell him, I don't think my mom would like that. And so therefore, it's a combination, I think, of the pressure of my dad and then love of my mother, right? And then so that actually made me, I think, who I am. I think both of them are necessary in life. People telling kids all the time that they are great, it's not good for them, and because they don't know failure. And then also making sure that they have something they're fearful of, I think is good for them.
Sure.
Because I was fearful of my father, but I love him, of course. He whipped my ass all the time, but people would call it abuse, but I don't call it abuse. Now I don't hit my kid now because I know better. I know psychology. I know better ways to get him to do things. But of course I think they're fearful of me. They know that I will flip right away and tell them,
test Dad.
Yes, don't test me. And then so, but we have different tactics now, but I think they need to know that a kid need to know that, there are things to do. Like if you put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burned.
Right.
But of course, mom would tell you, don't put your hand in the fire. Dad would tell you, well, let's try it. Right. And see how it goes.
Yeah, you really want to do that? Okay, I guess.
That's right.
So how do you push your kids now to kind of accomplish things? Like what kind of goals do you set for them to allow them to accomplish things and get through kind of some adversity to help them
exactly.
mature?
So now this is how exactly. Let's do, like, if they don't, of course, I set the tone. I present the goals. If they don't want to do it, I back off. But I pressure, and if because my kids, I tell them, you are young, right? Your brain is developing, and I am the person who is here to help you develop your brain in a proper, where you become a responsible person. So there are things you do now. You have to listen to dad and mom, because we know what's good or bad for you. So if I tell you my daughter plays the piano, she used to tell people, well, I play the piano because my dad forced me to. But now she's advanced and pretty good. And then they're inviting her to play at school, and she sees the benefits that come with it. She says, now I play because I like it. And because, I got some exposure. And so she now understands, I said, well, you remember that I used to force you to play the piano and you did not want to, and now you like it, right? Now you enjoy it. You have this platform. But she also, I forced her to do ballet, and she didn't like it. So her mom took her off of it. I was not okay with that. But of course now my dad would probably whip my ass and get me back into it. But now I don't do that. I just say, okay, well, she doesn't like it. That's fine. But I explained to her the consequences is that when she goes to a party or when she goes in the future, try to dance, and then she won't know how to do it. And she will reap the consequences of her getting herself out of ballet and out of folkloric music or out of dancing, because it will be a foreign thing to her, and she will bear the consequences of not knowing how to do it, which would be embarrassing, which would be, if there is let's say there is a competition, there is something in life that would be beneficial for her, knowing how to dance, but now she will not be able to do it because this door is closed to her. That's what I explained to her.
Receptive to that?
Yeah. I say, this door is closed to you now, my Maya, because you don't know how to do it.
So does she hear you and understand this?
Yes,
this is a very logical approach. And
She's
sometimes kids are
Yes,
not logical.
She's 13 now. She gets it.
Now she's old enough to get it.
Yeah.
So cool. We have some good background on you. Let's turn a little bit towards the incline.
Yeah.
So you were the 13th person to be a part of the 500 Club. That was in 2019.
Yes.
And the 500 Club is 500 inclines in 1 year. So you have 365 days to go up and down the incline.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tracked in Strava or with pictures, with photos. And there's a couple guys that track it. You also get a cool trophy once you complete.
That's right. I should have brought it here, huh?
Beautiful
That's
trophy.
right. I like it.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah, no, Greg Cummings, of course, he's the one who got me to do the 500 incline.
So he was the inspiration to do
Yes,
it. Okay.
because I met Greg one day. I was doing the incline. I see him all the time, but usually when I see him, I would do like this, and he would do like this, and we just kind of pass each other. We
Yeah,
don't
quick
talk.
knuckle bump.
Yeah, exactly. But one day I hope he's okay telling me that story. I don't know if he told you that story about where I found him almost dead up onto the incline.
He had we can ask him. You can tell the story, and then before we release it, we'll ask him if he's comfortable with that.
Yeah. So when he finished, and then I finished, and I saw him at the top, and he was opening a little candy and.
Yeah, the Smarties, right? Because
Yes.
he has diabetes. And
Yes, exactly.
helps
So,
his
and I
blood
see
sugar
him
in the right
standing
spot.
there with this little candy thing in his hand. He's trying to unwrap it, and I went like this, but he did not answer. And I thought, oh, maybe he's busy. So I took a break, and then coming down, and I saw him still standing there, and I said, "Hey, are you okay?" And I tapped him, and he just fell in my hand. So got him on the floor, and he started like seizing. So I took his little fanny bag and I opened it, and I saw that he had
Insulin. Yeah.
and glucometers, sugar, glucose gel, and I said, "Whoa!" So realized he's diabetic. Being a nurse, that's the first thought I had, and of course,
the best person to find him.
It was lucky. It was summer, and so there were a lot of people there. So I kind of put my hand in his mouth, and he had a gag reflex, so I started pushing sugar in his mouth, and so push sugar, and he was unconscious the whole time, but he had a little gag reflex. And there's some people there. There was a lady with an oxygen can. She said, "You want to use it?" So we alternated between the oxygen tank and the sugar, and 15 minutes later, he got back. He started seizing, and he was back, and I was like, "Whoa." He was like, "Whoa." And then, so I'm sure that happened before. I said, "Are you okay?" So people wanted to call 911, and he says, no. Of course, I asked him, if he wanted me to wait for him. He says no. And then, so I went down, and so by the time I got to the bottom, he was already past me, actually.
He's quick, huh?
Going down. And then, so
he goes down backwards, is that right?
Well, at that time, he was not. At that time, he was just, he went down. And then, so when I met him, when I got to the bottom, he introduced himself, and he said hi, and he said who he was. And I said, "Okay, I'm Christel." So that's how I met him. And I think he told me about the 500 Club and his challenge that he was going to start that year, the 2000 challenge. He was going to start the year, the 2019. And then so I started to think about it, say, that would be a good challenge to just do 500. He told me, he did 500 first, 700. And then he's alternating fight with
Roger Austin. Yeah, so,
exactly.
So for some background, in 2011, he did 601 ascents. And 2 years later, Roger Austin did 719.
That's right.
And then it was 1400 was Greg the
That's
next
right.
year. And then the next year, Roger did 1719.
That's right.
And then in 2020, so 2 years ago, January 11th is when he finished. He
Yes.
did 1825, and that's currently
25.
the world record of
The
most
world record,
laps.
exactly, the most laps. So,
Which is like 6 a day or something.
on
That's a
average,
lot.
you have to do at least 5 a day to do this.
Okay.
Not on average. You literally have to do 5 a day to do
Yeah.
it. There is no other way.
So that's if you have an injury, you should have some in the bank so that
Right.
or if
yeah.
you
So
have to
sometimes he would do
travel.
7. He does 7 because he was injured a couple of times.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he did 7s and he did 8 sometimes a day.
And it takes an hour to do one. I mean,
Well,
depending on how fast
if
you
he's
go.
doing it
or-
at that pace, it would take you an hour and 30 minutes per incline going up and down. So going up would be 45 minutes, maybe 50, and then at that if you're going to do 5, that's the pace I would go. And I think Greg went and then anybody would do like 1,000 would have to go, and then
Yeah, because you can't
and
go
then-
too fast or you'll have an injury,
No.
and then
No.
now you can't do your 5 for the next day.
Yeah.
How do you doing the incline now? Like, how is it different now you doing it versus when you started? Like, are you shedding clothing? You're doing, lighter, different shoes? Like, how are you doing it differently?
Well, I feel like now my body's used to it, though it's always harder. It's always hard when I do it. It's always, it's always like I'm doing it for the first time. But now my body's conditioned to do it, so I feel like it's easier. My goal actually when I was doing the incline, the 500, was to do it as easily as possible, to be as how do I call that? Less strenuous, not like a walk in the park as possible, so I can come back the next day. And I think I got that from Greg, and that's what he says. He says, if you're gonna go fast, you're not gonna be able to come back the next day. And then so when I did the 500 example, I always start in January, and Greg he was doing his 1,800 that year.
Yeah, in
And
2019.
2019. So in April, I started getting, because I used to go fast. I would go like very fast. I used to run up there too sometimes. I think my best time is like 28 minutes
Yeah, that's moving quick.
To the top or
to the top,
Okay.
And so, getting to April, my knees were killing me. So I could not, I'm thinking, shoot, how am I going to finish this challenge? Because my knees were hard. Every time I go home, my knees so I saw Greg coming down backward one day in certain spots. And I said, and so I decided, okay, let me talk to him to see what he's doing. He says, well, because he's doing it because Roger literally had to have bilateral knee surgery after he did his last challenge because of his knees. Being a nurse, I realized that that's going to happen because you're going to just tear your meniscus. You're going to tear it. There's no way around it. And so you have to find a way to not, destroy your body. So I decided to do it like he does. Go wherever it's steep, I go backward. And I started doing it very slowly, very deliberately. And over time, I realized, whoa, my knees are not hurting anymore.
Yeah.
And the third thing that confirmed this, that was the better way to do it for me, was that as a nurse, I went to assess a client one day who they thought should not be at home. And when I go and assess them, he goes to his garage every day and then come back to his house. And the garage, to come from the garage to the house, he has a set of stairs, 12 to 14 stairs that he had to go down. Those stairs are steep, very like this. And he goes up perfectly fine. He had braces in his knees. He's 80-some years old. So I said, okay, how do you go down at night when you're coming down the stairs? I said, well, show me. So he went up. He goes to the garage. When he gets to the top of the stairs to go down, he just turned around and he went down backward.
And he held the handrail as he's going down?
Yes. And then I said, wow, I remember his name now, Mr. Schonberger.
There's something to this going down
I
backward
said, there is
thing.
something to it. So he's just kind of, of course it makes sense for me. And when I saw Greg doing it, and then so I started doing backwards, so I don't go down the stairs anymore going forward. I used to run down the stairs as well. I used to go down the stairs in 12 minutes, sometimes 14 minutes, just running down. I don't do that anymore. I just take it easy. So for me now, what doing it that many times has done for me is I don't have to I realize now I do it for me.
Right.
I don't have to chase people going up because you're always tempted to chase somebody to get there before them. I feel like I don't need to do that. I feel like it's my time. It's again, doing the incline literally changed my thought process on businesses. Had me, when I was doing my 500 incline, I had a lot of difficulties with one of my buildings I was building. I got stuck because I couldn't find a contractor to do it for a budget that I had set. I had bought an assisted living, so I was going to renovate it. So I opened it as a new assisted living. And so I had a budget, and every contractor, they were asking me the triple the amount to do it. So I keep thinking, how do I get this done? And going up the incline, I realized I just have to just do it myself. So I decided to learn. I took the time going up and down the incline. I studied this, listening to audio about how to be a contractor. I literally opened a construction company. I went to Denver the same year. I took a class, so I would go study I would go to the class for 8 hours, come down and do the incline in the afternoon. So the whole summer I spent studying and taking the class and listening to books and audio about how to build a house on YouTube, how to do framing, how to do whatever. And I took the test and I passed it. So I'm a GC now.
I love your approach to all these problems.
Yeah, I kind of want to backtrack here for a second. So psychologically, what does the incline do for you then? Do you feel clearer or something when you're on it and you're able to think more?
I don't know. It just make me feel like it's a time away.
It seems like you improve yourself a lot.
I know,
on the
exactly. I do.
You find your best self, you think?
Best self. And it's like walking a long distance and having time to think about the universe, thinking about people, thinking about, abstract things.
So it gives you time to center yourself,
Exactly.
build some emotional regulation,
Exactly.
and calm down. And
it's like meditation, I guess, too, right? Because people need time to be alone. And if you don't have those time to be alone, you're not going to be able to, you don't improve yourself. You don't think of what you've done wrongly, or you don't you don't learn anything. And then so if you're always among, you're always doing something, you're always among people, I don't think you can grow. So you have to have time to be alone and time to meditate, to think, so you can grow.
Is there a spiritual aspect too? I know earlier you mentioned that there was a spiritual aspect to going up the incline. What's kind of the connection between your spirituality and doing the incline?
Well, I wouldn't say there is a connection. Like I listen to books, I listen to podcasts, or I listen to nothing. And then I think of, example, one day I was listening to a podcast, I started crying literally again when I was listening to that podcast about the world civilization.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, how, again, this kind of things kind of get me really upset. How one group of people decide to just invade another group of people and then change their culture, and then just for greed. If you,
Right.
Greed and trying to get... So I was listening to that podcast about how the Mayas were conquered down in South America because of gold.
by Cortez.
Or
right?
Cortez,
Yeah.
exactly. How these guys literally, I was sad because they encircled this. The situation I was reading was that they encircled the whole town, their party, and then they had their weapons. Only 50 people and there were literally hundreds of thousands of Mayans, and the cannons, they did not understand the cannons were weapon. So they were literally preparing to aiming at them, those people with nothing, and then guns. People, they are watching this happening. It's like a dog watching you or a cat or an animal or a slaughterhouse, right? You're gonna kill the cow, but they don't know really that's what's gonna happen, and all that is prepared while the party is happening. They are watching the guns being pointed at them,
And they were just unaware.
they're unaware because the technology, they weren't aware of the technology. That's why I love science also. And knowledge is important.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, the
that
massacre.
situation
the massacre began, right?
brought a lot of emotion out
Yeah.
when you were listening.
And then
to
so these kind of things, I listen to podcasts like this when I'm on the incline, that give me time to listen to them. And I realized after a while that gives me time to be alone, doing something and be alone, being something. And so my goal was also, when I was doing the incline on my 1,000, is do the incline and also be able to be not tired enough where I don't understand what I'm listening to, and also not be able to think. And so, because I had to work sometime on the incline, sometimes people would, people would call me, and I would have
I've heard
to
you on a
send
lot of
emails.
conference calls before.
Yeah, exactly. So that becomes a way to also manage my time, to make sure that not only I can meditate and I can work and I can listen to a book or listen to a podcast and not feel like it's strenuous. It's become part of, it's like you have to be able to make it part of you, because if you are so fearful of it, or you're doing it so fast that it's just going to be an exercise, therefore I will miss that opportunity of listening to a podcast or listen to birds, or listen to, look at the, enjoy the scenery, right?
Yeah.
Or just do nothing. Right.
Yeah. So in 2019, you completed the 500 Club for the first time. 2020 went by, and I think that's when you started your 1,000
Yes.
attempt,
Yes.
which you completed. You recently completed that a couple months ago, making you the third person ever to have done 1,000 in 1 year. What is next?
Well, next would be do 2,000, right? That's like, I'm thinking, how do I get 2,000 incline done? And because I think Greg was his goal was to get 2,000 to 2,000, and he did not get to that because of his diabetes and all that. But if anybody could do it, it would be him. But Rami,
I was waiting to mention him.
Rami, he's been doing the incline like me for a long time. He thinks he's done the 500 many times. Nobody even noticed. I think I've done it too, that I've never even noticed, because I wasn't keeping track of it.
Yeah.
So like Steve comes to the incline every day. He does 2 inclines per day. And so these guys, they've done the incline maybe 500 times, maybe put it on the record. And so Rami now wants to put it on the record.
Yeah, just the other week he told me, I did an incline-a-thon. That's 13 inclines in 1 day in 24 hours. I did 3 incline-a-thons last week, is what he told me. I was like, wait, what?
I have not done an incline-a-thon.
Did I hear you correctly? You did 3 incline-a-thons?
Yes.
So he's something else.
Yes. So I think he's probably on track to do 2,000.
Yeah, he sure is. I think he's at about 12 or 1,300, and it's been 6 months.
It's been 6 months.
So he's got a mission,
Yeah.
and he's gonna destroy it.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
He's probably on there right now. He's just like constantly there. I've gone late into the night, early in the morning,
Yes.
middle of the day.
Yes.
I'm always like, oh, hey, Rami. He's always there.
And the same, he works up there. He has his he says he does a lot at night, but during the day also he works when he's on the incline, because he works for this type of work. That the type of work he does allows him to be in the computer or on the phone now, which is a computer that allows him to pretty much participate in meetings and do things. So he feels like he can get it done. He's being humble. He says he's not doing 2,000, but I think he's doing 2,000.
He's so humble, isn't he? He's for sure doing 2,000. I think he's gonna do 2,500.
Oh gosh. So now, if he does 2,500, I was thinking, okay, if he does 2,000, maybe I'll try to do 2,000 in one. But if it's 2,500, man, there's no way. That's like,
that's a lot, right?
it's a
It's
lot.
so much time too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, doing 1,000 is.
I had to cancel my trips, all my trips for that year. I could not take off even going to Denver for overnight at one point, because I know that if I miss one day, I had to come back and do 6, because I was doing 3 a day.
Yeah.
And then I was at the point where if I miss one day, that means I have to come back the next day and do 6 incline.
So why was doing 1,000 so important to you? Is it like an addiction, or is it just this goal that you refuse to fail?
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, another thing is like maybe I'm a little obsessive, but if I say I'm going to do something, I feel like I'm obligated to do it. And so this is kind of how I function. I tell my kids too. Once you think something, well, you can only hold yourself accountable to it. But if you say it out loud, now you're accountable to everybody else.
Yeah.
And then so when I say something, I feel like I don't have a choice but to do it. So therefore, if even thinking it and I started it, there is no way I will not have finished it. and even if it's just the way I think.
So your word is very important to you.
Yes, yes. So again, it's how I was raised. I feel like I could do business with somebody by shaking their hand and be done with it. And so I don't have to have a contract but of course, now we know better, but still, I think it's value that you can say something and you believe that it's done. Yeah.
I want to go back for a second, because when you were talking about how when you're trying to become a contractor, you're like, I just have to do this. I just have to be the one to do this and to get it done. And I feel like the incline is very much a solo sport. You're doing it. It's all about you and getting up there. And I'm wondering, as you run businesses, that's not all about you. You have other people you're managing and you have to delegate, and it can't always be you pushing things through. So how do you balance that, being a go-getter and taking on everything? And then on the flip side with management, delegating and feeling comfortable that somebody else can do the job for you.
You know what? Yes, that's something I have to learn to do. I think I've learned that in the last 4 years. And maybe the incline, I could say, help me do that.
It forced you to.
Yes, because I realized that I don't have to compete with everybody. And that now also that I have to look for people who are better than me. And after I've started something, and let them push it forward and let them manage it. And then sometime actually it's better, you could start something and then somebody else could take it on and make it way better than you even were thinking. And so now I hired a COO, yes, that manages my assisted livings, and that we have to. But I'm a relationship type person, though. So I have people who've been working with me for 10 years, and they would not go anywhere because their problems are my problems. The same thing on my construction company. I have a superintendent who is also the owner of his business, and so our understanding is that he runs his business, but he pretty much oversees all my contracts on all my projects, but we have an understanding that we have a relationships. Whereas I believe if he tells me that it's going to cost this, I have no reason to doubt that this is what it's going to cost. I believe that's what it's going to cost. I don't have to fight or find another contractor, bid another person. That's how I function. Now, if I find out in the future that that person is not trustworthy, we disconnect, and then we don't work with them anymore. And that's what I've worked with all my staff. So my home care agency now, we have my home care agency director. She's been working with us for 5 years, or over that probably. And she literally runs the show. She's competent. She's grown it. She's made it internally better than I ever could. And so I let her be a leader. And I try to learn from her where I can, and I'm hoping she learns from me where she can. And the same thing for the assisted living projects. We had people there who weren't working well. Of course, they're not there, but we have people I've worked with for 20 years who are working with me now, who is in charge. She's my COO, and I believe her better judgment. And now I meet with them every week, and I make sure that whatever they do is aligned with our vision, with what we want to do. But literally let them run their operation and make sure that I now look at the bigger picture, which is growth, development, finances. And so I try to trust them. And I feel like it's worked for me pretty well. The same for the our transportation company that we have. And then so I feel like that's my growth now, learning how to let go, and also not only manage other people, but learn from the people I'm working with, right? And then so they can help me grow and help others grow, right?
Yeah, on the incline, you mentioned to me some of your aspirations you had, like moving forward into the future. You were talking about developing these third world country organizations that empowered them to learn and Can you help us understand more about that? Do you remember telling me about that?
Yes. Well, of course. That's why I feel like I need to learn how to let go and grow so I can grow, right? And so doing the incline last year got me exposed literally to cryptocurrency. There is no way I would have done it, been exposed to cryptocurrency, if I weren't listening to this podcast about finances.
Yeah.
And this guy literally changed his podcast in the middle of, I'm a linear type person, and I always do things the harder way, which I think sometimes I told you could cost me money. It could be not good, but that's how I just do things. So I was listening to a podcast called The Investors. No, we study billionaire. And these guys just study Warren Buffett, and they just read books about Warren Buffett, and then they comment on the books. And so I saw him because I started doing some investing into 2020 myself, playing with it. Halfway through the podcast, my thing is that if I started listening to the podcast contemporarily, like during he had like 1,000 podcasts already. So instead of starting at number 1,000, going forward, I decided to start at number 1.
I do that.
I do it the hard way. So I'm listening to his podcast, and then these strategies, long-term investments, how he look at charts and all that. And halfway through the podcast, at podcast number 900, he switched to cryptocurrency. He opened a second podcast talking about Bitcoin, literally Bitcoin. And I said, whoa, I remember Bob had told me about Bitcoin. Crazy Bob.
Yeah.
And I said, I never really do anything about it, but he told me about Bitcoin. He told me I need to buy this thing. And it was at 200. And I remember also that another Chinese friend of mine,
did you say Bitcoin was at 200?
It was at 200 when I heard about it. Yes.
Oh my God.
Because my Chinese friend told me about it too. I remember he had a party and he told me, we're mining Bitcoin. He and his friends that are geeks. And I said, what is mining? So we talk about it. I said, so I said, why is he now switching his podcast to a Bitcoin podcast? And then, so I started listening, and I realized, whoa, this is powerful. This is literally changing the monetary system of the world if the adoption of Bitcoin occurs. And there's also opportunities for poor nations to literally change their way of living and opportunity to literally be self-sovereign if they understand the opportunity that comes with Bitcoin. And the more I listen to this podcast, the more I feel like, this is maybe my way of my opportunity to now work with nations like Haiti, or now I was on my second trip to El Salvador. I was in El Salvador last week. Making them understand that this is a unique opportunity in mining Bitcoin. They can literally change the way of living of the community, of the government, of the country, get themselves on a Bitcoin standard, which will literally change their monetary policy and bring discipline to the way they use money, and also not only discipline, but also put them at the same level as a country like the United States of America, Germany, Europe, because the money, the relationship between the mining industry, the speculative aspect of Bitcoin, and the monetary aspect of Bitcoin literally is a game changer, I think, for small nations. That's why I think El Salvador's president has literally adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, and literally is doing exactly what I'm saying now. He's mining Bitcoin. He put out a Bitcoin bond, to raise money to now channel the money through projects to help develop Bitcoin City, right, in 10 years. And so is literally playing the playbook I was thinking could be played with that monetary system. And then so I'm hoping that other nations have seen it. I want to be part of it. And I don't even know how. I think God will open ways for me to be part of it. I'm a friend with the mayor of a town in El Salvador called Comalapa. And we are working on other projects, like I'm donating an ambulance to them for the community, because they don't have an ambulance there that's working in the mayor's office. So I'm donating I closed my ambulance company. We have an ambulance left. We're donating that to them. I'm looking at other projects that can happen in the community to give them money, because they are living on $1 standard, but they are making less than $10 per day. And then so I'm hoping to find ways to really bring work in the community, but at the same time, use that revolution, because the country is already in that revolutionary mode of monetary policies changing in the monetary policy, and use that revolution and evolution happening there, to say better, actually, evolution is better, to a different monetary system, to use that to maybe change that town, and hopefully the department. And then maybe not only, they don't need to wait for the government to do everything. Maybe the government can be doing things at a higher level, and then maybe we can work now with small towns, with small communities, and then see if they can do the same thing the government is doing and change the country. And then I feel like if this works over there, maybe you could work in Haiti, where I'm from. Maybe you could work in other countries in Central America. And so there we go. That's
for reference, my goal. An investment in Bitcoin at $200 a Bitcoin, when he was talking about looking at it, would be worth in excess of $44,000 today. Right. A $200 investment.
That's right. So my friend, who I told you is Chinese descent, who is American really, and was mining Bitcoin. He and his friends had 10,000 Bitcoin each.
Oh my God.
And wow. I don't know if he's okay with, well, I'm not going to tell his name. And then so one day, he told me one day somebody called him and told him, look at your Bitcoin, turn it into TV and look at Bitcoin. And then he turned on TV, saw Bitcoin was at $2,000.
Oh my God.
And then he says, whoa. So he went, looked for his keys, looked for his computers, and then so he found his 10,000 Bitcoin. Literally became billionaires or millionaires overnight.
Oh yeah.
But that was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
They sold it all.
Oh, they sold it at 2,000.
Yeah, 10,000 Bitcoin.
And it's at 44,000 now.
Yeah. So and then he sold it all.
I mean, I can't do the math in my head, but hundreds of millions, I would have to imagine.
So he sold 10,000 Bitcoin at $2,000. They became millionaires, and then of course, Bitcoin went down after that 50%, I think, or 80%. So they felt like they were vindicated. Oh, yeah, we were good. Yeah. But unfortunately, 2 years later, went up to $20,000.
Hopefully they've acquired some over the last 2 years.
They say they're working on it.
Yeah,
but he says, I don't want to talk about it, Christel. Don't talk to me about it. Don't talk to me about it.
We're going to talk about it for a second, because that's $440 million for 10,000 shares of Bitcoin.
Right.
That's what it'd be worth right now.
So
No. It would be billion. What did you?
Well, that's just for the one, because you said they each had 10,000, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so it would have been over $1 billion.
Yes.
So wow, that's some big strategic worldwide aspirations that you have. That's a really great thing.
Yes, exactly.
All of this from having time on the incline.
Well, I feel like it gave me time to think, time to be exposed, to see doors, right? To get to see doors that I could not have seen if I were to be not doing the incline. Like this door I would have never been exposed to it on a third time. Right? I was exposed to it the first time with my friend who is a geek, engineer. The second time, Bob, right? Yep. And I never even think about it. And then the third time, but that time I was in a meditation mode, and I literally understood the value of it. And that's the reason so that opened the door for me, right? And I opened a company actually doing it.
Yeah, I remember.
I have a mining company. We are not big yet, but we have some miners, and
I have no doubt that you'll be successful.
I think we will.
Yeah. Man, you are so inspiring in so many different ways. I love the entrepreneurial mind and how many you're like, oh, I have a problem. I'm going to start a business for that.
That's right.
And I'm going to fix it. And it's really cool. It's really great. I'm looking forward to the big things that you're going to be doing. I'm sure you'll hit your 2,000 goal if you start it.
Yes.
Do you think you'll start it
I
January
don't,
1st?
because if I say it, I'll have to do it.
I'm trying to
so
get you to
I'm
say it.
thinking about it.
You
I'm
think you'll do
thinking
it
about
January
it.
1st?
No.
That
I don't
gives you
think I
9
can
months to
commit to
start?
that because I think I have so much commitment to
Your
the businesses that I have now. And again, I have to, maybe when how old is Rami?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, maybe when I'm close to retirement, maybe I'll try and do that again. But it was hard.
Yeah.
I had to change my diet, my traveling, my relationship with my family. You cannot do this and think you can do anything else.
I mean, we're talking thousands of hours dedicated to hiking. and
That's 5
traveling
hours
and-
a day sometimes 7 hours on the incline. And then so this is not something you just do. It's something that requires dedication. I changed my diet, the way I eat, the way I drink. I decided not to drink anything but water in the protein drinks that I was drinking. And even I now calibrated the way I ate, not to eat. Now I don't eat much meat anymore. I used to eat a little more meat, but I now focus on only fruit and vegetables because that's what really helped me finish the incline. And so it changed your life. You cannot just say, all right, I'm going to do 2,000 incline.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, very cool. I expect nothing but big things from you. I'm sure
thank
we'll do
you.
this again sometime in the future.
Thank you.
We have only scratched the surface of the
That's right.
conversations
That's
we've
right.
had.
And I have a plan for the incline to see if we can track the people who are inspired to do the 500. So we are developing a business hopefully that will be.
Where you earn the rewards, right? As you achieve certain levels, you can earn a
Remember I
t-shirt or
talked to you
something.
about that, and then we see if we can. Maybe when it's settled and I start beta testing the app, it's in development. So when it's tested and I start testing it, and I'll let you know, and then maybe we can. You can help me get me some ideas.
Yeah,
on
we'll
it.
help you kick it off on the show here.
We have the app in development. Yes.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time, Christel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of fun talking with you.
That's great.
Catch up with you next time.
All right, thanks,
Let
man.
me know how to listen to this.
Yeah, for sure.